All right, so I'm recording now. Welcome, guys. Happy Monday. Week three of 16. So you only have 13 more weeks ahead of you. So it'll fly by, though, I promise. It goes by really fast. But hey, so we're in week three. Hopefully, I know virtual learning is sometimes kind of difficult to handle and to kind of get used to, but hopefully you're starting to get used to it. I'm not saying you should be a pro by now. If you're a pro, kudos to you. If you're like, man, I'm still kind of iffy, that's normal. That's okay. We're all, learning to live in the virtual world. So relax. Just know that I'm here with you, and we're going to get through this. And as long as you're doing your work and it's obvious that you're putting in the effort, I'm not gonna shake my finger at you and tell you, hey, what were you thinking? I'm definitely gonna be with you along this journey as it is. So okay, enough of that talk. Let's get down to business. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen with you. Let's see here, shared screen. All right, shared screen. Here we go. So I'm in the Comp 1 Blackboard, and let's go over what we were supposed to do for today, or I guess not for today, for last week, and then what we're going to do for next week. So this is our syllabus and schedule. Of course, every week you can always look at the syllabus and schedule. So last week, you didn't have to hand in anything last week. So nothing was handed in. All I asked you to do is to read the assignment sheet for Essay 1. I want you to be thinking about that story, okay? There's a story. I asked you to watch those 4 videos. So if you watch the videos, and again, you can watch them as many times as you like, but you should have a pretty good idea of what we're shooting for in this essay, what we're shooting for with the whole essay project. So again, if you haven't watched those, make sure to go back and watch them. They're going to be available all the way, forever. So feel free to, come back to them. I always recommend you reread the assignment sheet multiple times as you go along the process of finishing the essay. Even right before you hand it in, read the assignment sheet and make sure you did what the assignment says. Watch my video, especially the one where I tell you about what we're doing in the assignment. It's always a good idea to get those things and just to have those little reminders. But basically, all you had to do is watch those videos last week, and then I wanted you to read the 2 readings, okay? So basically, you're starting to get, we talked about the summaries, and okay, we're gonna summarize these 2 readings. Now, just to kind of clarify, every time we have an essay, we're always gonna be working on an essay in this class. There's 4 essays in the class, and right now we're working on Essay 1. Now, for each essay, it's always going to be the same. We're always going to hand in, basically, there's going to be 3 things that we hand in. 1 will be the essay, right? Eventually, we're going to finish Essay 1. You're going to hand that essay in. 2 is going to be your process, okay? So your process work. Now, that you should have already started on. That is the invention activities. Sometimes we call invention activities brainstorming, clustering, and free writing. Okay, you remember the video I did on that. And then we're always going to do an audience awareness paragraph. And then we're always going to do the next part, which is outlining and drafting. Okay, so we're going to talk about that today. But we're always going to do these things. And then whenever you hand in your essay, you're going to hand in all those little steps. You're going to put it all in one document. So like, for instance, maybe you did your clustering, and if you want to do stuff by hand, do it by hand. That's fine. All of this can be done by hand pretty much. I always recommend that you do the outline, at least on your, type it out, because you can use what you write. But whatever you feel comfortable doing, that's what I want you to do. And then eventually you're going to hand it in. Now, as you can see, what I've got here, this was an example from earlier, but I just took a picture of my notebook and then I dragged it over into a Word document. So there's my clustering, okay? And so maybe free writing I'll do, and I will, I'll write something, blah, blah, blah. That's my free writing, okay? And then maybe, you know, I'll do my brainstorming. Maybe I'll make a list down here. It's all going to be one document when you hand it in, eventually, whenever you hand in your final draft of your essay. So you're just going to kind of be accumulating this stuff as you go. So now you should be starting to have this Word document or a Pages document or a Google Doc, whatever, it doesn't matter, as long as you hand it in a PDF file or a Word document. And then you're going to hand that in whenever, on the same day you hand in your final draft. Okay, so having said that, that is basically what I expect you to be doing. And let's take a look at the syllabus. So on the schedule, again, last time you didn't really have to hand anything in. I didn't say you needed to be finished with anything. But week 3, I do want you to be finished with a few things. By the end of week 3, you should be done with your brainstorming, clustering, and free writing. You should be done with your audience awareness paragraph, okay? And you don't have to hand them in, because remember, we're just accumulating that one document that we'll eventually hand in with the final draft. But I want you to, you know, to be on target. This is how far you should have made it in this work. The other thing is, I want you to do this week, okay? You're going to have 2 videos. You're going to learn about thesis statements and outlines. And if you want to just take a look at that, you go to your homework and assignments, and then you go to Essay 1 project materials, and then you go to lectures for Essay 1. And look, wouldn't you see, oh boy, I've added 2 more lectures, okay? So actually, I've added 3 lectures. I've added one about outlining, this one here. I've added one about thesis statements. Now, you don't have to watch the one about discussion boards just yet. All you have to do for this week is watch the outlining and the thesis statement videos. Now, I will warn you, the outlining video is about 22 minutes long. But before you moan and groan, because I'm hearing it, even though you have your microphone muted, I can hear the moans. Okay, just so you know, you've got about 30 minutes, right around, a little bit under 30 minutes of video to watch this week, which is less than you had last time. So last time you had, you know, it was almost 40, 45 minutes worth of videos to watch. This week it's only about 30. So you're welcome. Anyway, watch those, and you can watch them over and over again. What it's going to explain is what I expect you to do for your outlines. And when it comes to outlining, just to kind of give you an idea, outlining is something that we're going to be doing for every essay. And if you take a look, now I talk about this in these videos, but when it comes to outlining, and if you watched my video about the narrative arc, let's see here. If you watch the video about the narrative arc, you're going to see that there are different parts of a narration, of a story, of a narrative story, right? And the whole goal of this assignment is that you're teaching a lesson using a story from your life. And it doesn't have to be something profound and mind-blowing. I mean, you've heard my story. I was a little kid and I poured water in my soda pop, and that's what taught me, and that's how I'm teaching other people. Sometimes we should be thankful just for what we have, right? It's not a huge lesson. It's not going to, you know, make people come to tears and be like, oh my God, you touched my heart. But it's a lesson, and I'm teaching it with a story from my life. And that's all I'm asking you to do. Now, if you take a look at the subway paradigm shift, just for instance, you're going to see all of those same places, for instance, on that narrative arc. Now, if you remember, on the narrative arc, we have an introduction. We're going to have the setting, because it's important that the audience understands some basic things about what's going on. Like, for instance, it was important for you to understand that I was a little kid in my soda pop story. Like, if it's a 40-year-old man and I was doing that, then it's a whole different meaning, to the story. It's like, oh, okay, education is more important, than this guy. This guy really needs to learn some things. But basically, it's important that we understand the basic setting. So if you take a look, let's just take a quick look at this subway paradigm shift. Now, your essays will be longer. These are super short, and they're written by pros, and yours is going to be longer because you're probably going to need a few more words to describe things and to get your ideas out on paper, and that's fine. That's a good thing. But if you take a look, this first paragraph is Stephen Covey's introduction. And we know, first of all, the first paragraph should always be the introduction. And in the introduction, we don't tell the story. We're not telling the story immediately. We're setting up the story. And really the whole purpose of the introduction is to place the thesis statement. Okay, we want to place the thesis statement in our introduction. And you can see this is what he does. He gives you some basic ideas about what a paradigm shift is, and he sets up his thesis statement, which is this: our paradigms, correct or incorrect, are the sources of our attitudes and behaviors, and ultimately our relationships with others. So what we have here, this is the lesson. This is the thesis statement. This is the thing that he's trying to teach us through a story from his life. And so then what do you have after that? So after that, you've got the setting. So the first paragraph is dedicated to telling the reader all this basic stuff that is important to know so you understand this reading, okay? I remember a mini paradigm shift that I experienced one Sunday morning. Okay, it's important. Sunday morning on a subway in New York. So if you've never been on a subway before, well, before COVID, they're busy places, really crammed. But on Sundays, because those are days typically people don't use those sources of transit for work, they're pretty quiet, they're pretty empty. So he's telling us a little bit about that to kind of inform us about the mood, right? And so he says people were sitting quietly, some were reading newspapers. So it was a real quiet thing. So we get a real picture of what this place was like, and we know where it was. All the stuff we need to know. We don't need to know it was his birthday. We don't need to know anything else because nothing else really applies. We assume he's a grown-up if he's by himself in a subway, right? There's some things you can just assume that the reader's going to take away. And then the next paragraph, which is a very small paragraph, yours will probably be longer, but then the next paragraph lets us know that something changed. There has to be some kind of a change, some kind of a thing that makes this story happen, right? Some kind of a catalyst. So for instance, you would never care to hear about a story about a guy who took a subway ride on a Sunday and it was quiet, the end, right? There has to be some kind of a change. So in your story, think about what that is. For my story with the soda pop, it wasn't like someone just ran in and something exploded or something like that. For me, it was that my mother poured soda for my sister and I thought I didn't get enough. That was the thing that made this whole story start, right? So whatever it is that made your story start, okay, you're going to need a paragraph dedicated to that. And as we outline, the whole purpose of our outline is to kind of set this stuff up. What am I going to talk about in this paragraph? What am I going to talk about in that paragraph? And so on and so forth. Now, the next paragraph adds to, it really doesn't have a specific purpose other than adding to what's already going on. We needed a little bit more description. We needed a little bit better picture of what is happening in this story. So just remember there are times whenever you need to, there's some description that needs to happen so that the reader understands what's happening in the story. And then we have the conflict. We have the time whenever some action takes place that moves the story along and something happens, and that's where we're about to learn the lesson, right? So for me, I poured water in my soda. For Stephen Covey, he got irritated that these kids were running around and he had to say something, and so he said something, okay? And then the next paragraph, we find out the resolution. We find out what was the result of this action that the character took. So what happened as a result? Okay, well, we find out this terrible information, this awful thing happened. And so then we have the conclusion. Okay, so the conclusion is going to wrap it up. It's not going to add anything new, but it's going to rehash and kind of explain how the story kind of proves the thesis, or how the story actually taught the lesson. If you look at it, look at this. They mentioned paradigms again. Now you notice they didn't talk about paradigms at all in the whole actual, whenever the story was going on. But they had it in the thesis statement, and then they had it in the conclusion. So the conclusion generally, as a rule, is going to somewhat echo the introduction. It's going to bring up whatever it was that you're trying to prove in the introduction, and it's going to kind of remind the reader, hey, remember how I was telling you that thing about paradigms? And it's not going to say it specifically like that, but it's going to bring that back into the mind of the reader. So again, like he said, everything changed in an instant. So he wraps it up, and there's his story. So what we're tasked with in this essay, I'm asking you to do, and of course yours is going to be longer than this. This is just, this guy, Stephen Covey, is a best-selling author, and so every word, every sentence is perfectly placed. But what we're going to try to do is we're going to have a story that's going to teach a lesson just like this, okay? So it doesn't have to be anything huge. For him, he was trying to teach us that the way we look at things is oftentimes not the way things really are, right? And the way that we look at things is often what affects the way we treat other people. So it was kind of, he maybe his was more profound, okay, than my soda pop story. But both are perfectly okay in this kind of an assignment. So whenever you go to your Blackboard page and you watch those videos that I give you, be thinking about your story, all right? Be thinking about how you're going to outline, how you're going to tell this story, because the whole point of what we're doing, the whole point of this is that we're going to try to tell a story well enough that it actually does prove a point. It's not just a story for the sake of telling a story. It's a story for the sake of proving a point or teaching a lesson. And so take a look at those. Now, we're in week 3 now, right? So now it's time to start thinking about due dates, because those two things, your outline and your thesis statement, right? Your thesis statement is going to be part of your outline, but those two things are due Friday next week. All right, next week on Friday they're due. But guess what else is also due Friday next week? Look at this. Friday next week, you need to have your draft done. So you basically need to have your essay completely written by next week on Friday. Now, this is a rough draft, and oftentimes people think of rough drafts as it can just be garbage. It's only a rough draft, and that's not the way I want you to look at rough drafts, okay? Because what we're going to do, whenever you have a rough draft, and I'm going to ask you to post it on discussion board 1, here's what's going to happen, okay? So for that rough draft, you're going to go to Blackboard. You're going to go up here to discussions over on the left. You're going to click there, and you are going to upload your rough draft to the Essay 1 peer review. And what's going to happen is you're going to read 2 other people's essays, and other people are going to read your essay, okay? And you're going to give each other some constructive criticism. Basically, you're going to follow these directions here. You're going to copy these questions, and then you're going to answer the questions for your partner or for whoever it is that you're reading. I'm going to tell you more about it next week whenever it's actually due on Friday. This week it's not due on Friday. This week there's nothing that you have to hand in, again. But next week we got stuff we got to hand in, so I'm just trying to get you ready. But basically next week you're going to go to Essay 1 peer review. Some people have already done it. Awesome. Cool. So what you're going to do is you're going to create a thread. You will upload your document here, and then other people will read your essay. You're going to read other people's essay, and you have to read at least 2 people's essay and review at least 2 people's essays, and then other people are going to read yours and review yours. So here's the thing. If you hand in garbage, they're going to tell you, yeah, it's garbage. And you're going to be like, well, I knew that. I handed in garbage. I already knew it was garbage. But if you hand in the best you can possibly hand in for this, whenever the stakes are low, then somebody's going to catch the typo that you missed out on. Somebody's going to catch, that, okay, the introduction doesn't really make sense. They're going to catch things that you missed out on. And that's the whole point. So you're going to get credit just for participating in this. And then hopefully you'll have a better essay to hand in when the final draft is due in the following week. All right, so that's a sneak peek ahead to next week on Friday. You're going to hand it in here. But let's take a look real quick. Bear with me just a second. Okay, so the question is, where do we turn the outline in the thesis statement on Blackboard? Again, you might have gotten in here a little late, I'm not sure. But again, what we're doing is with all of the process homework, we're going to accumulate all of that onto one document, okay, as we go. And then I'm going to show you on the week that it's due where to hand it in. But just because you're wondering, I'm going to show you right now as well. Eventually, when the essay is due, okay, so when the final draft of the essay is due, that's also when all of these pieces of process, so your invention activities, your audience awareness paragraph, your outline, all three of those things will be on one document, and you're going to hand it in where it says Essay 1 process points, this right here. I'm jiggling it. Hopefully you can see that. So that's where you're going to hand it. It'll be right underneath where you hand in the final draft. Now, a quick word on this. So the process points, we have 4 essays. So 4 times we're going to hand in process points. Each one of those, if you have all of the homework in the document, you get 25 points. That means if you hand in all 4 of them over the course of the semester, you get 100 points. This is a 1,000 point class. So for my mathletes out there, you already get it. If you hand in your homework for all 4 essays and you always have all the pieces, that's 10% of your grade. And that's 100% A for 10% of your grade. That's like acing a midterm or a final. Okay, so just make sure that you're handing in, doing the homework, and it should benefit you greatly. And again, don't worry, on the day, the week that things are due to hand in, I'm always going to remind you how to hand it in. Always going to do that. Yeah, Jalen, you can put them on different pages in the same document, and it's just going to be all one word document. Great question. Okay, so let's review. So for this week, all right, I gave you a sneak preview as far as what's coming because it's good to know what's coming. As far as this week goes, though, okay, you need to be finished with your audience awareness and your brainstorming. If I were you, I would try to finish your outline as well because it's due the same day your final, your rough draft is due. So, I mean, it's not like you're going to, magically do both of those. One is going to lead to the other, right? The outline should be done first. So if I were you, I would get the outline done this week and just be done with it. That way next week, all you have to do is work on that rough draft. So this week, watch the videos, work on your process. Next week, on Friday, your summaries are due on Blackboard, okay? Now, if you take a look real quick at the summary example, let me just kind of give you an idea of what I'm looking for this summary, okay? So we go to the example summary, and let's just take a quick look at that. And we can, let's just pretend we're summarizing the subway paradigm shift. We were just looking at that one. It's fresh in our heads. So the nice thing is we don't have to worry about a lot of the MLA stuff, a lot of the citation. I just want you to kind of get started, and I just want you to learn the basics of like how to summarize something. So the first 1 or 2 sentences, okay, you're going to give me some information. First of all, you're going to let me know what it is you read. So for instance, you might say in the article, and then notice how we have quotation marks around learning survival skills. So basically what that means, anytime you have the title of an article or an essay, you'll always put in quotation marks. So let's suppose we're doing the subway paradigm shift, okay? So it would be in the article, and then we would put, the subway paradigm, okay, shift. That's always it's a funny word to spell. Okay, in the article, the subway paradigm shift. And then instead of Gene Coleman, we would put, what was his name? Stephen Covey. Stephen Covey And then look what the rest of the sentence does. It's really general, right? It's not like it goes into great detail in this first sentence. Shares tips for student success. So it's really general. So if you think about what in general, what is Stephen Covey doing? Well, you might say in the article, The Subway Paradigm Shift, Stephen Covey tells the story about how his paradigm changed from a encounter he had in a New York subway. Notice how that's just a very generalization. That's just a generalization of what happens in that story, right? That's all you do on the first sentence or two. I wouldn't even need a second sentence in this case because I think I've done it with the first sentence. Now, after that, just take a look. Everything after that is details, okay? Just general details. And the cool thing is you can pretty much just detail what happens in each paragraph on this particular one. Now, that's not how it's always going to be, but since it's so short, each paragraph does a specific thing. So you might say, and just take a look at how these sentences are going. One of the things he says, another thing he says, a third thing he says, she also shares. Okay, so all of these are just details. So you might maybe after you've said the main idea, right? Maybe you might say, it all started for Stephen Covey on a quiet subway in New York. So, Covey says that a group of kids came in and were very loud, and the father did nothing. Then Covey decided that he should say something to the father to try to get the kids to calm down. When he said that to the father looked at him and said, it's awful, but yeah, their mother just died and they don't know how to handle it. Then Stephen Covey said that his paradigm had changed and he finally saw what was really happening and he felt awful in that moment, right? So, I mean, that's pretty much it. So you don't have to really overthink it. I don't want you to try to quote. So please do not quote in a summary because we never quote in a summary. It always needs to be your very own words, just your own words, not my words, not Stephen Covey's words. So don't copy and paste anything. Just relay in your own words what was said in the story. All right. So the trash man is here. So my dog might go crazy. Don't go crazy. Don't go crazy. It's okay. Bernie, you're okay. Okay. I think I've contained the beast. All right. Anyway, so this is the summary. That is essentially what is due next week on Friday. Okay. So you have 2 weeks to do this. So you have plenty of time and you need to do them both. Now, when you hand them in next week on Friday, again, I'm going to remind you next week because it's not due this week. It's due next week on Friday. But when eventually you hand them in, it's going to be in the Essay 1 project folder. And you're just going to go to the summary of reading 1, summary of reading 2. And it doesn't matter which one you hand in to which thing. As long as you hand them both in, it's fine. Again, that's the end of next week. So the end of next week, you've got to have your rough draft on the discussion board, and you need your summaries done by the end of next week. All right? Now, just a quick review, and then we'll be out of here. All right? I promised a quick class, and of course, we'll cover questions if we have them here at the end. So week 3, you're going to make sure you're done with your brainstorming, clustering, and free writing, also known as the invention activities. You're going to make sure you're done with your audience awareness paragraph. If I were you, rather than just beginning your outline, I would finish your outline this week. Okay. Again, we're adding to that one document you'll eventually hand in. And then you're going to watch 2 videos. Okay. One of them is about outlining. The other one is about thesis statements. That's all you have to do this week. Then if you want to look ahead at what's next week, well, you got some things that are due. Okay. So next week, we're going to learn about peer review, and we're going to hand in a rough draft, and we're going to hand in our summaries. Now, quick word on next week. Next week on Monday is Labor Day. And so we're not going to have class like this on Labor Day next week. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to record a video of just me, and I'll give you all the rundown of what's due. But I'm kind of going over it this week as well, just to give you a little, I guess, head start. But I'll give you a video next week, a very brief video of me telling you what to hand in and where to hand it in. You don't have to show up to class Monday. I will not be sending out Zoom invites for Monday because it's Labor Day. Unless I'm wrong, I think next week is Labor Day, right? Let's see. Right? Yes. Okay, good. Yeah. All right. So I'll be giving you a video that I'll just upload and you can watch it just to give you an idea of what to do, and we'll be good to go. So having said that, any questions in the box? If you have any questions, go ahead and put it in the chat box real quick. If not, then we'll get out of here. But if you have any questions, please put it in the chat box. All right. So I don't see any questions. If you're like me and you come up with one as soon as class is over, you walk out. I usually walk out the door and then I think of a question I should have asked. Hey, no worries. I'm one of you. I would be happy to answer an email or have office hour with you. Remember, my office hours are Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 a.m., Tuesday, Thursday at 2 o'clock. But you do need to make an appointment with me so that we can make that happen via Zoom. All right, let's see here. I do have some questions here. Let's see here. What all is to be turned in next week? Okay, so right here, next week, we're going to hand in our summaries to Blackboard, and we're going to hand in our rough draft to discussion board 1. So those two things are due next week. And if you missed where to hand those in, I did go over it today in class. I'll be uploading the recording of this video and you can watch that again. Where do we turn in the audience awareness paragraph if there is one? Okay, so again, we're creating one big document and just copy stuff over into this document. Eventually, you're going to hand all of it in together, and I went over that in this video. So just go ahead and rewatch the video. You're going to hand it in. I'll show it to you whenever it's the week where we hand it in as well. But it's the link right underneath where we hand in the essay 1. Any other questions? Okay, guys. Make sure to get outside, enjoy the weather while it's nice. Get some sunshine in your life. Try to enjoy your week. I appreciate you guys being here, and I will see you in a video. We won't have to do one of these classes, but I'll see you next week. Thanks again. Bye-bye.